Hi everyone, welcome back to Mama Bear Inc. If this is your first visit, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. Today we are going to be making a card with the Flurry of Wishes stamp set. This is brand new in our 2015 holiday catalog for Stampin' Up! And this does come as a bundle. It has a matching punch that goes along with it. You can bundle these two. They don't come together, but you can, instead of buying them separately, bundle them together and save 15% off the price. So the card we're going to be making with this stamp set today, this was my inspiration piece. I made this card based on a technique that I watched a video of Jennifer McGuire's here recently about highlighting the center of a stamped image for a sentiment. But in making this card, I got kind of inspired to take it up a notch. So I want to remind you that all of the measurements and supplies used in this card, or the card we're going to make today, will be posted on my blog. So you'll have all of the instructions and supplies. You'll find the link down below in the description. So let's get started, because this is a pretty involved card. So if you don't have your coffee right now, you might want to pause and go get your coffee. Anyhow, we are going to start with our card base. This is pool party cardstock, and it is cut 8.5 by 5.5. And scored at 4 1/4. And this is just going to create a standard A2 sized card. These fit perfectly in Stampin' Up's medium sized envelopes for sending. And we just need to fold that over like so, and there is our card base. Now, our next layer is going to be a layer of soft sky, but we're going to do something special with this layer of soft sky. We are going to break out our Versamark ink pad, and this is just a clear sticky ink pad that allows embossing powder to cling to it until you can hit it with your heat gun and melt it all the way. And what I'm trying to do here is get clear sticky ink on the edges of this paper, because what I want to do is embossing around the edges to create kind of a neat frame for the layer that goes on top of this one. So we don't need to emboss the whole thing, just the edges here. And you don't really need to use your embossing buddy or worry about static cling or anything like that, because we're just sort of making a mess with it anyway. Okay, so I've got it kind of all around the edges, and one of my favorite embossing powders from Stampin' Up! Is the Iridescent Ice. It is such a favorite that I buy it kind of in bulk and hoard it. So here is the Iridescent Ice embossing powder, and we are just going to cover all of this Versamark ink with Iridescent Ice today. And it's called Iridescent Ice. It's basically a clear embossing powder with our clear or our white glitter in it. So I think Dazzling Diamonds. Yes, I know what I'm talking about. I swear to goodness, it's been a long day. All right, so we have got the edges covered with our embossing powder. And again, we don't have to be too worried about where it is at or anything like that, because we're just sort of making a mess. So we're going to bring our heat tool, and I'm a new demonstrator with Stampin' Up, so I don't have the Stampin' Up heat tool just yet. I'm going to use my original one. So hold on just a sec. Let's get this embossed. Okay. And so now we have our layer embossed, in that you can see how just really beautiful and iridescently glittery this is. Can you actually see that? Let me see. There you go. There, you can see how iridescent that is. Okay, so we've got that layer finished up, and this is what is going to go right on top of our card base there. And then our white panel, and again, all of the measurements will be on my blog, is going to go on top like that. So you can see that just that beautiful iridescent edge is showing. All right, so the next thing that we are going to do is, gosh, I really did make a mess. We are going to go ahead and mount our stamp sets. Now you can, I told you prior that right on this each stamp set, Stampin' Up! Shows you which blocks it recommends. And so this big, huge one is recommended for the E block, which is, I mean, that's a big block. So we're not going to be using the big, huge one today. We're going to be using this medium-sized one and then the two smaller ones, which is actually one stamp that fits the punch. So we're going to get those mounted up, that up on that one. And we are going to stamp the larger snowflake in Soft Sky ink. And we're just going to kind of do this all over the front of the card in a random pattern. Now, in the last few cards that we have made, I've said I really didn't want the images that we were stamping to overlap at all. On this card, they are going to overlap because we're basically trying to create an extremely busy background. All right, so there is our Soft Sky. And now for the smaller snowflakes, we are going to bring in the Pool Party. And we'll get these inked up here. And then we're just going to start again, randomly stamping. And this time around, it's okay if they overlap. And let's turn it so we can do it a little bit different here and there. Okay, that's not going to work out because it was already like that. Okay, let's do that. There we go. Our whole purpose here is to cover the front of this card. And we are using our regular dye inks to do this because they dry really quickly. So now that we've got that whole card front covered, go ahead and put away our ink and clean up our stamp here. And we are gonna, next thing that we're going to do is take our Whisper White Craft ink. Now this is a pigment ink, which means it is wet and it stays, the dye ink sinks into the paper and dries very quickly. The pigment ink tends to stay on top of the paper, which gives it a more opaque finish, but it does stay wet much, much longer, which makes it great for embossing, but we're not gonna be embossing this. So you either need to give it a whole bunch of time to dry completely, or you're going to have to hit it with your heat gun to dry it. But what we are going to be doing, I've got a dauber. We sell these in, oh my goodness, I need to calm down. I think I've had way too much coffee today. So these are the finger daubers, and they are for sale in our annual catalog, and I will link to them on my blog. But I am daubing this into the white pigment ink, and we're going to come to the center of the card and we are going to dab here because we want the ink to be very thick here in the center of the card. We want to get this as opaque white in the center as we can. And then as we move out, we will just kind of drag it out and let it sort of fade off. And you don't have to do it in a perfect circle or anything like that. You just kind of want it to fade out as you leave the center of where you, the center of the card. Okay? And so at that point you can start dragging it out so it just kind of fades away. So as you can see, the design in the center of the card is quite subdued now because it's covered with that white craft ink. All right, so we are probably going to still have to hit this with a heat tool, but we are done with the white craft ink for now. And we're going to be working on another piece to go on this. So I'm going to set this aside and let it dry. Meanwhile, I'm going to take a scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock, and we're going to get out our punch here, And I want to make sure that I am going to be stamping to where that's, okay, to where my punch is actually going to come up onto the paper and punch these out the way that I want. So we are going to stamp these again in the Pool Party ink. All right. And am I doing this right? No, it's supposed to be like this. Yes, okay. So let's get these inked up in Pool Party. All right, and we'll get them stamped. That doesn't look like it's very, okay, there we go, that looks better. Get those inked up in Pool Party, and we're gonna just stamp straight down, like so. Okay, make sure we get a good impression, very nice. So we're done with that. Clean our stamp. I did promise not to say anything about the you-know-what again. All right, next thing that we're going to bring in is the Stampin' Up! Two-Way Glue Pen. This is, I absolutely love Stampin' Up's Two-Way Glue Pen because it allows you to get into some tight spaces and basically just put glue wherever you want it. So I just want to kind of color in the tips of these snowflakes and maybe the center here in these little lines like so. Let's see. I'm going to do it on the smaller one in the center, and maybe I'll just dab that like that. All right, so I've got a bunch of glue on there. So my other favorite Stampin' Up! Product is the Dazzling Diamonds Glitter. I buy it by the ton. All right, and so, no, this is not the Dazzling Diamonds Glitter. That is clear embossing powder. That could have been a serious disaster. This is the Dazzling Diamonds Glitter. Okay, way too much coffee, not enough sleep. So we're just gonna dump a bunch of glitter on top of those snowflakes and the glue that we laid down. Tap it off real good, and we have fun, sparkly snowflakes. I love it. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry for a little bit. Now, this craft ink stays wet for an incredibly long time. I don't know if you can actually see that, but it is still wet. So we're gonna hit this with a heat tool and get it dried up because we're gonna be stamping over it. So stand by. Okay, so I think we've got that pretty much dried there with the heat tool. Did we? Sometimes it is so hard to tell. It's lighting. It's all in the lighting. Okay, I think it's fairly close. So I am going to teach you a trick that will allow you to emboss in any color you want to emboss in. Here is the trick to this. You take your Versamark pad, you take the ink pad that you want to stamp your image in. In this case, it's going to be Night of Navy. So we'll get this opened up. And then, of course, I knew there was a reason I had the clear embossing powder out. So now we are going to need our embossing buddy because we do not want embossing powder all over the whole deal, just where we put it. So we're just going to rub our embossing buddy there. Now, here we go. We're going to go into the Versamark first, so we get that good, clear, sticky ink on there. Then we're going to go into our Native Navy ink, like so. Line up our card base and stamp our sentiment right in the center of where we highlighted with the white. And we're just going to set that down, let the ink transfer, and lift up. Now, immediately, well, it doesn't really have to be immediately because Versamark stays pretty wet for quite a while. We are going to go to our clear embossing powder and put that over the sentiment. And we've got some extra because that white was not completely dry. So luckily it's clear embossing powder. So I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. But we want to get as much off as we can. If you have the time and you're not shooting a video with it, my recommendation is that you allow that white to sit for quite some time so that it can be completely dry. All right, we're going to hit this with our heat tool. And there we have our sentiment embossed in Night of Navy. So that's kind of the trick to embossing in any color you want with Stampin' Up. All right, so let's get to putting this sucker together. Now, this front decorated panel, of course, is going to go right down on top of this. But because we have that embossed background and embossing powder on here, I am going to use the Fast Fuse adhesive just because it is wicked strong and it will hold on some irregular surfaces. All right, so we'll get that lined up and laid down just like so. And the paper is a bit warped because it was heat embossed. So we'll just kind of turn it over and press the whole thing down on the back. And we still have some blips here. All right, let's see if we can save this. Let's get some more glue on there. It's still bubbly. All right, now that we are done gluing that section, we are going to come back to our snowflakes that we stamped together and decorated with the Dazzling Diamonds glitter. We are going to bring in our snowflake punch that goes along with this stamp set. And remember, you can buy this in a bundle and save 15% in our holiday catalog. We'll line those up and punch them out. Makes it so easy. And now we have our cute little decorated So now we will bring in our decorated panel. And it took me a bit to get this to lay flat. My suggestion is going to be that since we did the glittered embossing powder around the outside, that you do use a liquid glue to do this. You can use the fine tip glue pen, although I think it'd be a little tedious with this. You can use, you can use some Tombow Mono liquid glue. Mine's well used, as you can see. You can use some Tombow, and I don't know, you could give it a try, but maybe the glue stick would work. I don't know. You'd have to give that a shot. That would be kind of an experimental thing. But I think the liquid glue is going to work better in any case. Okay, so going back to our original card, I had decorated this a little bit with some pearls, and I didn't really wind up liking the way that that looked. So that's why I decided to create these two little snowflakes with the stamp set and the punch, because I think I'm going to like this a whole lot better, I think. So we're going to pop these up here like so on either side of the sentiment, and we are going to do that using some Stampin' Dimensionals. And this sheet of them is acting kind of tricky. All right. So we will get the back peeled off here and put this one down and the back peeled off of this one and get it into place. And then just to finish it off, these are white perfect accents, and these are available in the annual catalog on the pages with the other embellishments. Excuse me. Now these are a lot like our candy dots. They're basically just enamel dots, only they're white, and these come in 3 different sizes, as you can see. And what is up with all these little furries? Okay. And so I'm just going to use my Stampin' Pierce tool here. This is the easiest thing that I have found to kind of move these things around. And it's stuck to my finger. Okay, there we go. So I want to kind of I want to use 3 of them, number 1. And I just kind of want to put them around where the sentiment is, like so. So I used a middle-sized one, a small one, and then I'm going to get one more middle-sized one and put it right there. So just kind of, again, that triangle. I kind of broke my rule where these snowflakes are concerned because I only did 2 of them. So, oh well. All right, so to finish this sucker off, we are going to nail down this decorated front panel to the pool party card base. And then, wait, is that pool party? Yeah, this is pool party, this is soft sky. It doesn't look like soft sky anymore because of the embossing. So I'm going to do this with some fast fuse. And it's going to work this time because, of course, there's no embossing on the back of the panel. And I'm just going to put it all the way around so we get a good hold on the front of the card here. And we will center this up just like normal and lay it down. All right. And we have finally finished this card. It took a little bit of doing, but when you experiment as you go along, things happen. All right, so here was the original card that I made, and it kind of turned into this card that we just made together. And I really do like the way that it turned out. It's glittery and sparkly, kind of like little snowflakes are. We've got our little accents and a lot of heat embossing. Just beautiful for Christmas time, I think. So that is going to do it for today's card. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to talking with you again soon. Take care.